Don Henley, the voice that propelled the Eagles into legendary status, has given the world countless hits. But amidst all that fame and fortune, there's one question fans have always wondered. Who truly stole the heart of the man behind the music? At 77 years old, Henley is finally ready to reveal his answer. But trust us, it's not the story you'd expect. So who is the mystery woman? You'll want to stay with us to find out. Don Henley's rise to fame. Then, there was the rise of Don Henley to fame, like an arrow shot to the top. Born into the small town of Linden, Texas, Henley probably became that something more which his small-town upbringing could not hold on to. The early years were spent in honing his craft, finding inspiration in rock and roll greats such as Elvis Presley and Little Richard. But no one could predict just how meteoric his career would be upon co-founding one of the most iconic bands in history, the Eagles. By the early 70s, the Eagles were unstoppable. Take It Easy, Desperado, Hotel California. Henley's voice was everywhere, carving his place into the annals of music history. But while the world danced to his melodies and analyzed the cryptic lyrics of Hotel California, little did they know behind the enigmatic stardom lay a man deeply influenced by the women in his life. Yet who was crafting those tender ballads? Whose devastation was behind gut-wrenching lines such as those in Wasted Time or the heartbreaking refrain in Desperado? At the height of Henley's fame, rumors fluttered around several women, Lorelei Shellist, Stevie Nicks, Maren Jensen, but none seemed to capture Henley's heart completely. Or did they? We're going to dive into those relationships in a minute, but first, consider this. While Henley lived a life of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, for whom was it that his mind constantly returned to? Which muse was the inspiration behind some of his most deeply personal work? And the question is this: can the answer be found in the words of his songs? Or is this one secret Henley has kept to himself for almost 5 decades? Keep watching, because as Henley's star rose higher, so did the stakes in his romantic life. And if you think the man who penned some of the greatest love songs in rock history didn't have his own tangled love stories, well, you're in for another thing coming. The tumultuous 70s, rock, fame, and romance. The 1970s were a time of unruly energy, cultural shifts, and above all, rock and roll. And right in the middle of this storm was the Eagles, propped up by Don Henley's incomparable voice and lyricism. The level of success was not just monumental, it was explosive. From arenas to airwaves, the Eagles were everywhere. Songs like Hotel California and Take It Easy became anthems of a generation. But with such a meteoric rise came a whirlwind of personal challenges, especially in Henley's romantic life. Henley's relationships ran parallel to his career in terms of their intensity. First, there was Lorelei Shellist, a model whose beauty and charm managed to ensnare Henley. It was a fiery and tumultuous relationship, much like the life Henley was living. Many believe she may have been an inspiration for several of his more introspective songs. Take Wasted Time, for instance, a haunting ballad of the pain of a love that felt both powerful and doomed. Its words of regret and introspection paint the picture of a man wrangling with a relationship that, with all its highs, would reach a crashing low. But here is the kicker. While there has been much speculation on such matters by fans, Henley himself has never confirmed such a thing. Was Lorelei the muse behind Wasted Time, or was there more to that story? In walked Stevie Nicks, the otherworldly rock queen whose voice and charisma equaled Henley's intensity note for note. Their passion, talent, and drama merged. Magic happened when they were together, musically and romantically. Leather and Lace, their iconic duet, is just one example of the undeniable chemistry they had. But behind the music, their relationship wasn't always in tune. There were rumors of volatility and tension, and it was clear that though the flame that burned between them was bright, it also burned out quick. But here's the kicker. Neither Lorelei nor Stevie Nicks was the lasting love of Don Henley's life. Despite the influence the ladies had on his music, the relationships, though filled with inspiration, were bittersweet and fleeting. These relationships did, however, inspire some of the best songs ever released by the Eagles. Take Hotel California, for example, with its penchant for cryptic lyrics and ever-present themes of excess, isolation, and disillusionment. It wasn't about California at all. It was about the labyrinth Henley found himself in personally. But who was the real muse? Who was the woman who would leave a permanent mark upon his heart? Well, here is where things get very interesting. Henley wasn't done searching, and this story of his love life wasn't even close to being over. Stay tuned, because the next chapter brings on more heartbreak and a surprising new beginning. A tale of heartbreak and new beginnings. The 1980s marked a pivotal moment in Henley's career and personal life. The Eagles had just broken up, which also happened to be in the year 1980. But while the world was still mourning the breakup of probably one of the greatest rock bands of all time, Henley was well on his way to plotting his next move. His solo career was about to take off, and songs such as Dirty Laundry and Boys of Summer only proved that he didn't need a band to achieve new heights. But while his solo star was rising, Henley's love life was going to make an unsuspecting turn. Enter Maren Jensen, the actress who stole Henley's heart in the early 80s. Maren is a fresher breeze in Henley's life, hailing from the science fiction series Battlestar Galactica. They soon become inseparable and in due course get engaged. But all love stories have their own share of angst, as did theirs. Maren had serious health issues which overcast the period like some foreboding dark shadow. Henley stood by her side even as the emotional toll began to weigh heavily upon him. It was through this turbulent period that Henley wrote one of his most powerful songs, The Heart of the Matter. The lyrics of The Heart of the Matter are those of a man coming to terms with forgiveness, closure, and the many confusing facets of love. Many had the feeling that Henley was channeling his pain from his broken engagement with Maren into the song. It is a ballad about acceptance, coming to terms with the fact that sometimes love just isn't enough to hold a relationship together. Heartbreaking, raw, and honest, it is. But here comes the interesting part. Despite that heartbreak, Henley seemed not quite ready to let go of love just yet. While with Maren he may have been emotionally shattered, deep inside he knew that his search for true love wasn't over yet. So who was this woman who would finally get his heart? Thus, Henley forged his solo career and the challenges in life after Eagles. There was just but one person in the wings still waiting for him, and that person would alter everything. Stay tuned. Henley's love story was just about to get a twist that even his fans could not predict. Meeting his true love, Sharon Summerall. Don Henley had already found fame, fortune, and the heartache that accompanies living in the fast lane of the rock and roll world. Little did he realize that in the early 1990s, he would find the one who would completely change his life, a woman named Sharon Summerall. There was nothing like a flashily glamorous concert stage or high-profile party to kick off their story. Instead, it was through mutual friends, away from the spotlight, in an infinitely more intimate and private setting. Sharon Summerall was who exactly? Unlike the high-profile women Henley had dated in the past, Sharon came from another world altogether, a quieter, more grounded one. She was a Texas-born model who had graced the runways of Paris and New York. But Sharon wasn't just a pretty face. She was a graceful, resilient, deep person, qualities that instantly drew Henley in. Her beauty was undeniable, but it was her inner strength and calm demeanor that really drew Henley in. The couple's relationship suddenly started to blossom, but it wasn't without its challenges. Sharon was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, or MS, an incurable chronic illness that would invariably shape both their lives. Not one to be defeated, Henley looked beyond her condition and zeroed in on the woman that she was, brave, graceful, and strong-willed. If rock stars were known to have fairy tale romances that were short-lived, Henley's love for Sharon ran deeper and more enduringly. This wasn't just some fly-by-night romance, but something much more valuable. By 1995, the two were ready to take their relationship to the next level. It was a marriage of true rock and roll fairy tales. On May 20th, 1995, it was the most star-studded event, with some of the biggest names in music and entertainment present at the wedding. Bruce Springsteen, Sting, Sheryl Crow, among others, joined in to celebrate this very pivotal moment of Henley's life. But while the guest list dazzled, what stood out most was how Henley connected with Sharon. This was not just another celebrity wedding for the tabloids, but this was it, the real commitment founded on mutual respect, admiration, and love. But here's the kicker. The wedding wasn't what solidified it. Yes, it was a day of celebration, surrounded by friends, other musicians. But the real depth in their love came from something far more profound. What made their love so special? What was it about Sharon that changed Henley's life forever, making this relationship different from the rest? The answer lies in the bond they shared, a bond beyond physical attraction and superficialities. Their love was finding peace and balance in each other. Sharon provided stability in Henley's otherwise hectic life, while Henley gave Sharon unyielding support through the trials of her illness. Living in a world where fame and fortune more often than not lead to disintegrating relationships, Henley's and Sharon's love was a sign of the magic that true partnership does to people. But that is not all. This relationship even went on to affect Henley's music too. Join us as we go in-depth into how Sharon Summerall changed not just Don Henley's heart, but also his music, the song that changed it all. Sharon wasn't only the love of Don Henley's life, she was a muse behind some of his most heartfelt music. Actually, she had inspired one of Henley's most personal and touching songs, Everything is Different Now. In fact, this song wasn't just another hit for Henley. It was an intimately personal tribute to the woman who had irreversibly changed the course of his life. But how did Sharon inspire such a profound shift in Henley's music? It all started with one important realization. Life with Sharon was a complete opposite from what Henley had always experienced. For many years of fleeting relationships and turbulent romances, Sharon managed to bring that calmness and clarity Henley never knew existed. His songs range from Everything is Different Now, in which he sings about how love changed him inside and out and made him a better man. This song epitomizes their relationship of trust, mutual respect, and deep emotional contact. But here's the thing. Sharon didn't just inspire one song. She influenced an entire album. Henley's album Inside Job, which was released in 2000, was filled with tracks exploring love, redemption, and personal growth. Many of his following and the critics did notice a marked difference in Henley's tone and lyrics found on this album. A new sense of maturity and introspection seemed to be reflected in his music due to the stability and love Sharon brought into his life. What was different about Sharon that made Henley's music different? Perhaps it was a sense of security, a sense of partnership he'd found in her. For the first time in his life, Henley wasn't writing from some kind of heartbreak or longing. His music was infused with a sense of fulfillment and contentment, a celebration of the love he'd found and the person he'd become as a result. But their fairy tale wasn't without its own set of problems. Life with multiple sclerosis wasn't easy, and Henley and Sharon had to take the good with the bad, as one does when a chronic illness presents itself. Yet through it all, they remained rock solid. It was here, in Sharon's inner resilience amidst adversity, that Henley continued to find inspiration for his songs. But here's what is interesting. Henley's music was not just about that love he shared with Sharon. It was about how that love changed him as a person. He once said that Everything is Different Now wasn't just a song for Sharon. It was a song about his own evolution. Sharon had not only changed his heart, but also changed his perspective in life, love, and even music itself. But that is not all to it. While their love would have survived storms, how did it withstand the test of time? What obstacles did they have to put up with, and how did they surmount them together? A love that endured the test of time. To Don Henley and Sharon Summerall, it wasn't just a snap in the world of rock and roll, but a lifelong partnership. Unlike most celebrity couples, with their lives constantly under public scrutiny, Henley and Sharon made a conscious decision to live away from the Hollywood limelight and instead centered their lives on building a normal, steady, and loving family life. Together, they were blessed with 3 children, namely Annabelle, Julia, and Will, away from the glitter and glamour that often engulfs stars of Henley's stature. But this wasn't just a love story. It was a love that defied the odds. Sharon's battle with MS presented enormous challenges, both physical and emotional. Living with a chronic illness is never easy. For Sharon, though, it was very tough since most of the time the world moves according to what they see. Instead of shying away from the troubles, Henley stood by Sharon through every twist and turn. His devotion to her was steadfast. Whether it was driving her to medical appointments, accommodating their lifestyle to her needs, or being a source of emotional strength, time after time Henley proved that his love for Sharon ran so much deeper than what people could literally see. What kept their love so strong? Some would say it's the values they share. Henley and Sharon both put a premium on family loyalty and hanging in there. Others would say that it's the fact they've been able to make it through life's rough spots together. After all, after you've seen a couple go through highs of fame and fortune and the lows of illness, what remains is the meat of the relationship itself: trust, companionship, and support from a partner who doesn't quit. But theirs was no ordinary odyssey. Despite Sharon's MS, they lived an existence so replete with jollity, laughter, and music. Henley has spoken in interview after interview about how much Sharon means to him, not just as a wife, but as the anchor of his life. Their love on many levels epitomizes the ideal that so many others aspire to, a union that can get through anything. But the question is, what does Henley say about that kind of love at 77 years old? After spending decades together raising their kids, fighting against adversity, what does Don Henley have to say about the woman who has stood by his side through it all? Stay with us as we get into Henley's most candid confession. Don Henley's confession at 77. Now 77 years into his life, Don Henley has taken time to reflect on his life, career, and most importantly, love for Sharon Summerall. In a world where love is often as quick as the blink of an eye, Henley's admission says it all. The highs and lows, fame and fortune later, Henley made it known that without Sharon by his side, such would not have mattered. So, what does Henley say about the love of his life? In recent interviews, Henley speaks freely about how Sharon is not just his wife, but his rock, his muse, and the one who has brought most joy into his life. When much of his early career was a tornado of fame, it was Sharon who gave him stability and peace he had always longed for. He often refers to her as the anchor in his life and the person who found the right balance so he would have the ability to be at his best, even on stage. There's also a lot of wisdom within Henley's thoughts about aging. As you grow older, you realize that love and family are the most important things, Henley has said. For a man who professionally has achieved so much, it is clear that it's his personal life that truly defines him. The love he has shared with Sharon, particularly in the later years of their lives, holds dear to Henley. But it doesn't stop there in his confession. While most marriages get reduced to ashes in the pressured flame of fame, Henley realized how special his relationship with Sharon was. "She's the love of my life," he says, not holding back. No award, no accolade, no recognition is stronger than the love Henley has for Sharon. Their love is not just made on passion or moments. It's built on years of shared experience, challenges, and triumphs. It is really a love story that has faced the test of time. What does the great love story of Don Henley teach us? The story itself is a proof that true love will outlive fame and fortune. More than anything, it reminds one that at the end of the day, what matters is the bond with the people you love. It isn't just Henley's love for Sharon that he confesses to, but the richness of commitment, companionship, and standing together through life's worst challenges. But that is not all to the story. Henley's love for Sharon has continued to be his influence on the music as well as his life. As we close, let us consider this further in the power of love extending beyond the limelight, a love through thick and thin, and one that will surely continue for years to come. From heartache to joy, the Don Henley journey touches the heartstrings as a reminder that true love endures through even the most bitter of circumstances. But it is his towering admission to the world that Sharon Summerall was the love of his life that gives the rest of us a little hope. What's your favorite Eagles song or moment? Share it in the comments. What's next for Don Henley? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, his love story will remain timeless.